Go. Thank you again for participating. This is Suzanne Brooks, and I'm the Director of Meetings and Conventions for the Ohio Dental Association. And with me today is Amy Semenya, who is our Exhibit Hall Manager. We thank you for taking the time to be here. The ODA Annual Session Committee puts this together for you. We believe that you're a very important partner in our annual session, and we want information and input from you and to make sure that we're providing you with the services that you need to have a successful show. Those of you that have been on our website know about our Exhibitor Resource Center. That information is there for you at any time at your convenience. And please don't ever hesitate to reach out to Amy or I if you have any questions or concerns about our meeting. The Annual Session Committee has worked with Jefferson Davis and Competitive Edge for 2 years now, and we're really excited about the additional resources that both he and his company help us provide to you. So our seminar this afternoon, our webinar, is how to make your ODA annual session exhibit stand out from the crowd. Jefferson, you're on.
Thank you, Susie, Amy, and the executive team at the Ohio Dental Association. I imagine a lot of you listening with me here today have exhibited at a lot of trade shows. How cool is it to be exhibiting with an association like Ohio Dental that cares enough about us as exhibitors to invest time and resources to not just run us real estate, but to show us how to make it profitable? So I want to welcome everybody to how to make your ODA session exhibit stand out from the crowd. And as Susie mentioned, this program is part of the association's commitment to adding value and helping us as exhibitors get more from the time and money we invest. The centerpiece of their program is called the Exhibitor Success and ROI Center. And this is your and your team's free 24/7, 365 exhibiting knowledge portal. You can go here anytime you want and view topical webinars. You can read and download topical exhibiting articles. And you got questions about how to make trade shows productive and profitable? All you have to do is go to the Ask the Trade Show Expert, type your question, and send it, and I have a team of experts that will review that. The takeaway here is to make sure that you bookmark this page, that you share it with everybody on your team, and you check back frequently because we're continually updating the Exhibitor Success and ROI Center. So many of you have probably seen me around the trade show circuit. I've been in trade shows now for 30 years. I've been involved in the execution of over 200 shows. And for me, the trade show was never a place to just show up, fly the company flag, scan some cards, hand out some tchotchkes, and go home. For me, it was always a place where I had to make every dollar do the work of 10. And over the years, I've been on the constant hunt what are the factors that really drive value and ROI for us as exhibitors. And I've identified 5 of them, and I've developed practical, workable processes to address them. And I'm proud to say that between my company and the many companies I've worked with as consultant trainer, we've been able to generate over $750 million in combined results from our exhibiting program. So if you ever want to talk shows, you can reach me through the Ask the Trade Show Experts email Q&A on the ODA website, call me directly, or even email me directly. So let's get started here as we start this topic of how to make our exhibit stand out from the crowd. I think it's important that we step back and take a look at why people really attend trade shows. And it comes down to 3 major reasons. Number 1 is they're coming to learn. Not just through the sessions where they're getting continuing education and credits, but through you in the exhibit hall. You are the subject matter expert on your products and services. So they're looking to you to teach them something about how they can use your products and services to either improve their practice management or their patient care or their staff performance, but they're looking to you to learn. Number 2, shopping. They use trade shows to find new, better, faster, cheaper, greener, safer, cleaner products, but also, very importantly, to revalidate existing buying relationships. They're continually asking, do I still have the best overall supplier? So remember that, make sure that you're inviting your customers and reinforcing your relationship with them, because if you're not, the competition might be. And number 3, networking. It's the gathering of the dental community tribe, right? So they come to interact with their peers and their colleagues and key opinion leaders and you, the suppliers. So I think the question that you might want to think about as you look at your exhibit is, does your exhibit address these multiple needs that attendees have? And how well do you feel you're providing opportunity for these 3 needs? And second, if you say that you are providing it, is maybe you should make a few notes in terms of what specifically you're doing to address these needs. So those are the 3 big reasons why people attend. Now, here's the thing, okay? You got to put yourself in the mind of an attendee and realize that when they come to the show, they have overchoice about where to spend their time. And it's really hard for an attendee to walk an exhibit hall end to end to end and just look at every single booth. So they're very selective about which exhibits they visit. And so the question I think we all need to be asking ourselves is our exhibit a worthy destination? With over 200 other exhibitors they could be visiting at this show, why should they visit us? And I'm going to give you some answers so we can really make sure that you've designed your exhibit and the experience in your exhibit to be worthy of the attendees' time. Exhibit Surveys is one of the research leaders in our industry. They've been researching trade shows since 1963, if you can believe that. And they've identified 3 things that are most important to booth visitors. Number 1, the overall appearance of the booth. Is it interesting? Is it quickly evident what they do? Is it a quality build? Does it look like a place that they should go spend their time? And then the information that they receive during their visit to the booth, the quality of that information. And number 3 is the relevance to their practice, to their business. So those are 3 big things that are important to booth visitors about the experience in your booth. So let's talk about this worthy destination idea, and let's identify some practical things that we can do to make our exhibit a worthy destination. Well, number 1, it's got to get seen, right? It's got to get noticed. You might think that they notice every single booth they pass, but they don't, okay? If you ever want to test this, stand 4 booths down from yours and ask attendees in the aisle, did you notice it? Could you tell what they did? You might not like the answers you hear, but it's important. Job 1 is that your exhibit gets seen, gets noticed. Then it has to very quickly and visually answer the question, what do you do in their mind, and why should I care? Or your value proposition. Why should I stop out of over 200 booths and engage with your booth? You got to answer that question visually and quickly. Number 3, it's got to be approachable. It's got to be easy to get into. It's got to be easy to move around, and it's got to be easy to exit. A lot of you in small booths, 10 by 10 inline booths, throw tables across the front of your booth, leave the attendee in the aisle. It's a big mistake. It's like a window shopper. Window shoppers don't spend money. They look, they gawk, but they don't spend money. And there's a psychological shift that happens when the visitor crosses the carpet line and enters your space. So you want to make sure it's approachable, easy to enter, and easy to navigate and get out of. Number 4, there's got to be brief, right? It can't be long. They're not going to spend 25, 30, 40 minutes in your booth. It's got to be brief, but it's also got to be meaningful, and it's got to be engaging, something to do in the booth. And number 5 is that they learn something that is valuable and useful, that they take away from the exhibit. I could really summarize an effective exhibit in 5 words. Here it is. Look, who, what, why, do. Force me to look, communicate what you do, tell me why I should care, tell me who you are, and give me something quick and valuable to do in your booth. You do those 5 things, you got a worthy destination. So let's get into some examples of how to do this, okay? Now, some of you you don't have physical products, you have services. So when you have services, it's going to take a little more thought. It's going to take a little more creativity. You definitely can create an excellent exhibit, but you got to think a little harder. You can't just put the product out there and put on a demonstration, right? So here's the starting point. I want you to step away from your product or your service, and I want you to think more about what problems might they be having in their practice that my service helps them solve. What opportunities does my service create for the practice? Where does it save them time, money, effort? How does it improve their efficiencies? What physical improvements can my service make in their business? I would get together with your sales and your product, your service team, and sit down and really write some solid, hard answers to that question. Some strategies you can use when you have a service business is, number one, these one-to-one presentations, or one-to-many, where it's one person presenting to a small group of people. So maybe you're going to sit down and identify the 3 biggest problems dental practices are having getting their insurance claims processed and how to reduce and eliminate them. So that might be an example of a one-to-one where you design a presentation, or a one-to-many. Gamification. People like to have their knowledge tested in quick, fun, novel, interactive ways. So can you spot the 5 biggest challenges with regard to this or that? Or how many of these questions can you get right in 60 seconds? Fun stuff, interactive. Sometimes a physical prop in a service. Like when I exhibit, I use a tape measure with a calculator. And my theme is success is measured by the companies you keep. How do you measure up? So I use this tape measure to reinforce my measure message, and I physically give it to them, and I ask them 2 questions and have them calculate a number. Doing white papers or industry intelligence reports, case studies. Another practice we dealt with was dealing with this problem. Here's the approach that we took. Here's the result it delivered. And visual client testimonials in your exhibit graphics or on flat panels, audio visual. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with service businesses. You just have to think a little differently than a product because you don't have that physical product to show. Okay, so let's get into the 6 ways to really make sure our exhibit gets seen. How do we get seen? How do we get noticed? Okay, number 1, people are like bugs. They're attracted to light. The fastest way to make an exhibit more visible is to light it up. Maybe like this, with backlit exhibit graphics and a large product prompt. Look at that. Latex free, the value proposition's there. I know exactly what this company does. I know who they are, and I know their value proposition, latex free. And that lighting with imagery on it helps me look. Here's another one where they're using a large swatch of green color lighting just to kind of grab your attention. Here's one where they're using lighting in a very unique and almost overwhelming, but still grabs your eye. Here's one where they're just using lighting and a colorful backdrop to really grab your eye, all the way down to the carpet, right? Here's one where they use 3D exhibit design, a really high quality build out with the lighting and like the ocean floor. And this company does subsea housing, so you can see how this is a visually stunning booth. And here's a really creative example of where they've got a new product on display and they're building moving lighting into the backdrop. See those yellow arrows? They kind of move down and there's 6 of them. They look like they're suspended in the air. And so how are you using lighting? And what can you do differently to make sure that you've got powerful lighting to get more people to look? Next, imagery. A picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So pictures. So here's an example of where they do seatbelts for school buses. Large image of the seatbelt. The children sitting in a school bus. Very relevant imagery, right? And then they've even got the demo right on the edge there. Here's an example of using a kind of unique shape in the form of an image, a lightning bolt, pointing down toward the product that is well illuminated. We're seeing a big trend today in almost like these cartoons using text bubbles to communicate. I want to make my booth stand out. You know, that's really on point for what we're talking about today, right? So this is another creative way to do it. One large central image. We print fabric. I'm telling you, if you are interested in fabric exhibits, you're not gonna pass this booth. Here's one where they're getting a little bit unique, kind of shocking, using a scary image like "Why Fear Insurance," the hockey mask, right? And here's another one where they're using familiar iconography in the forms of like a caution sign, saying "Avoid violations," and behind it is a violation checklist that people are used to seeing. So how are you using imagery? How can you use it better? In a small booth, I will tell you this, less is more. Now, another secret to using imagery in a booth is to add people to the image. People are people watchers, right? So this example here, 85% of patients want more communication. And there's what? The images of two people. And the headline is well placed right between their faces, so you're going to notice it. Here's an example of an instrument company where they're using an image of a person right near the table to pull your eyes toward all the instruments. And here's an example, a little bit provocative, but nonetheless, people are people watchers, of a person in the backdrop. And notice the color throughout this exhibit and the flooring also. Okay, so are you using people in your images? If you're not, you should add them because it'll increase the number of people that look at the image. Okay, next. It's got to visually quickly tell a story, clear, informative messaging, a value proposition. Now look at this first image here. Populate your EHR. Crystal clear what they do, the value proposition, right? Notice the image of the doctor speaking into the, it's a transcription tool that they have. Look at this, 4 words. Reviews matter, get some. Crystal clear what this company does. How about this one for a dental practice? Appointment gaps. Notice the color they used to communicate appointment gaps too, red, right? So remember your color has power too. Time is money. Save both. 3 minutes or 30 seconds. Which would you rather do, right? It's a great backdrop. Check out this one. The lady looking down at the bill with a shock on her face. High water bills? DEP violations? Very relevant messaging. Get your notes in order. 1, 2, 3. Now notice the common trend between all these exhibits. They use headlines, hooks, and they use short, not too much imagery to help tell the story. Okay, creative use of audio visual. Let me go through some examples here. Using projection and having unique shapes that the projection is on. This is an example of using projection on a lens, and notice that arrow pointing down, pointing to 2 interactive demo stations. This is an example where a small exhibitor is using a well-placed flat panel with infographics to educate the customer about why they should be providing their type of service. Here's an example of where they're using audio visual kind of built into a backdrop that builds. So these orange lights build and these clouds start to populate, and it's telling a story here about their product. Here's an example of using a LED type video screen dangling a question. How can I increase my case acceptance? Which is very relevant. And that bottom image on the right was really cool. They had 4 flat panels together, and they were using a artist in the booth that was building a 3D image thing where you could get your picture taken. And they did time-lapse photography showing in 90 seconds the entire thing get painted. It was extremely eye-grabbing. So how are you using audio visual, and how could you be using it to help grab attention and communicate and tell your story? Another example, one of my favorites, small 10 by 20 booth. They've got a service tests for corneal dystrophy, and these 2 large rear projected eyes. If you look close on these eyes, you'll notice they have spots in the iris. or the pupil, I'm sorry. See those spots in there? And as you walk near the booth, these eyes would slowly blink and open, and the spots were gone. 10 out of 10 people that pass this booth look at it. This is another trend that can work really well in small inline booths along with medium and large booths of connecting multiple flat panels and using color and video and branding and imagery that changes. If you were to walk by this booth, you would see it change, and different instruments were being featured on this board. Notice also they kind of have a lab setup in the booth. And here's a really creative example of audio visual where they put a bunch of iPads into the back wall, and right now they're all random with eyes, which is kind of interesting. And there would be times where all these iPads would sync up and it would be one large central image. So audio visual today, adding AV to your booth, extremely powerful when it's done right. Next thing, there's got to be something to do in the booth. On the Henry Schein example over here on the right, this is a photo booth. You step in, you get the picture, you get Henry Schein branding. On this middle example, this is one of my favorite booths ever. Talk about physical engagement, firefighters convention. They had these booths down there that filled with smoke. The firefighters put on the masks, went into the booth, and got to check out the mask in a simulated operation. Here's an example of using gamification. You know, I've seen a lot of Plinko boards on show floors, those little plastic ones, and, you know, they're kind of just sitting there on a table. This company, Census, made a data Plinko where they told their story. Each hop is a stop, which is Mesh, which is the competitor, and FlexNet. So when the attendee came up to the booth, they picked a number, and the lady, notice the lady up on the top, she sent their number down the Mesh side. She sent another number down the FlexNet side, and every time the FlexNet one went straight to the bottom, and the Mesh one got stuck, right? And so they were using interactivity gamification to really help tell their product story. So here's the question. How are you building interactivity and physical engagement to help tell your product story? If you're not, you must. Okay, the number one way people want to engage on show floors is through interactive demonstrations and presentations.
Navigation, okay? Do not have barriers to entry nor exit. Make sure that when somebody is near your space, they can quickly tell what is where, especially in medium and larger booths. When you have multiple products in the booth, think where you're putting them, the logical order and the placement and how they're used. In larger booths, we're seeing zones where they're floor planning the booth out, where there's a meet and greet area. And then they've got an information seeker area where people can go that aren't necessarily qualified and still access content and information. And then they've got the interactive solution areas, and these would be round tables or meeting rooms, and the deeper conversation areas where you go deeper. And then relax and recharge areas are another hot trend we see on show floors, where it's got some space for people to sit down and charge their devices and have some water or juice or coffee or tea or whatever. And so think about those of you in medium larger booths, think about the zone concept. What you don't want to do is be like this booth here. You do not want to be like this booth. Wrinkled banner, table with a bowl to drop your card in, nobody in the booth. You don't want to do this also, fence the attendees in. They do not like going into enclosed spaces. And you definitely don't want to do this. Put a big counter in front of the entry and have about 10 staff behind it with blue shirts on, all of their backs to the aisle. These would be textbook examples of what not to do. Okay, next. For those of you that sell instruments and multiple solutions in the booth, it's very important that the visitor be able to locate things quickly. So notice this example on the left, how they've got these instruments in the booth, and they've got them categorized. Scissors, needle holders, and miscellaneous here. Forceps, hooks, other stuff here, so the attendee can quickly move around. This booth on the right has multiple solutions from vitreolysis and ultrasound and SLT, and notice how they've used well-placed header panels in different colors right above eye level as directional signage within the booth. So the visitor quickly knows what is where in the booth. Okay, these are great visual examples of how to do that. As far as interactive, you can do one-to-one. Hands-on is important. You can do one-to-many, where it's one presenter speaking to 3, 4, 5, 7, 10. You can recreate the physical environment, the practice or the operatory, gamifications, and you can also use self-guided, which I'll show you. So one-to-one, this is one of the greatest one-to-ones I've ever seen. They're teaching the retailer how to customize their cold vault. And so what they do is here, it's got the different demographics and the different categories of drinks, and as they touch the demographic and the category, it rearranges the flat panel to show them how to set up the cold vault for maximum profit. That's like one of the most mind-blowing I've ever seen. These hands-on demonstrations, something like this. See where smaller can take you? The imagery, there's a demo space. Here's an example. They've got this real lightweight crate type thing, and the girls are just literally with their toes flipping it in half. And people are like, whoa. This is a great example of an in-booth demo, right? Cleans the water so you can clean the floors, and what do they have there? They've got the actual product. They've got a quick demo. It'll take you 60 seconds to do it. And here's a company that does a new type of chair for business people that are setting in traditional chairs where it basically props them up to stand up. And he's demoing it in the booth. It's hands-on, do something. The number one reason attendees, the number one way they want to engage with exhibits on the show floor, according to CEIR research, is through interactive presentations and demonstrations. It's the number one way they want to engage. So if you've got something where you can get it hands-on, make it hands-on. Remember this, they come to the show to do more than what they can do on your website. This is a 3D immersive environment. One-to-many presentations, there are obviously larger booths here can be doing these theaters, and look at the kind of crowds you can pull with theaters, but even smaller booths. Here's a 10 by 20, right, with a small space in it. Look, it's got 9 little stools. It's got a flat panel. Is your high-value data 100% secure? Or a quick 5-minute presentation on how to make your data more secure. This is an example we saw recently to show you the power of theaters. Look, they're lined up all the way around the block for this theater experience. Recreating environments. Another great strategy if you can recreate how it's used in the clinic or the practice. This example here is the healthy workplace. And what they did was they set up a vignette of an office desk and a bathroom and a water cooler, and they were just showing with these call-outs, these colorful call-outs, all the different places in the workplace where germs are being spread. Here's an example. We'll talk about recreating the environment. The company sells these little things that go on your wiper blade, right? And this was at a college store show we did. And they had a cutout of the rear of a truck, and this wiper blade was moving. I can't think of a better way to demo the product, right? Here's an example of where they had where they were comparing to the competition. Valspar had a roofing compound that keeps the attic cooler than traditional roofing compounds. So they had 3 vignettes, their product, traditional tiles and shingles, and then inside of each of these little houses they had a digital thermometer showing you the heat, the temperature in the attic. Great examples, demonstration, presentations, recreating. Okay, gamification. I got some good ones here. Look on the left. What's your germ personality? Get started with a quiz. And it kind of puts you in a bucket, right? This is Kimberly Clark. And over on the right, Sherwin-Williams, right? They're a brand. They're a commodity. They're paint. How do they engage people? The color match challenge. How many colors could you match and how fast? And they had a leaderboard. And the one in the middle was called the Snack Swap Challenge, another gamification approach where the retailer had to pick 3 products they thought were the lowest performers and replace them with 3 that they thought would raise the category, elevate the category's growth. And they were dead on. These were great attractions, educated, engaged, immersed. Self-guided. Sometimes, you know, you just want to have where people might not even want to engage with the booth staff, but they can still get the story. Here's an example of taking a physical product display and putting text bubbles on it to tell the story. The next generation, 21% reduction, 18% increase in this. Great example. Here's an example of using a flat panel synced up to iPads and having the attendee interact with the content. This is a complete solution for radiology from entrance to lab to exit of all the different solutions they offer. Touch the screen, get a deeper dive. Here's an example of GEA literature stand, the ability to access information on the iPads. And notice how they made sure to have a large sign to let you know what to do with it. So another good example. Improving the attendee comfort factor. If you want longer dwell time, if you want people to actually stay in your booth longer, then there's some things you can do. Flooring, start with your flooring. If you've ever walked into a booth on a show floor that has carpet and thick padding, you know it's a place you want to hang around at a little bit longer. Great strategy. Not too much stuff. Don't cram too much stuff into your space, right? Have some open space. Accessibility, remember that. It's not only easy to get in and out of the booth, but they physically can interact with your products. Oftentimes we see products displayed they look like jewelry cases, and the attendee can't interact and touch with them. That's a mistake. Seating, all right? The longer you want them to stay, the more comfortable you make the seating. If you're doing certain type of theater or presentation that requires 7 minutes, if you put a hard wooden bench, they might stay 4 minutes. If you put a reasonably comfortable chair, they might stay 5. If you put a super cozy seating, they'll stay the whole time, right? So that helps. Your staff behaviors play a big role in attendees' comfort. People that are friendly and attentive, and notice them and respond to them. Not pushy, kind of, respect that these people know stuff and their time is important. And then food and beverage. We know this for sure. If you put a drink in someone's hand or a snack in their hand and it's in your booth, it tends to increase the dwell time. Not having it on the edge of your booth where they can grab and go, but strategically placing it back or in toward the center of a medium or large booth. So some attendee comfort factors. Hydration station. This was amazing. The show had this big water thing, and it had cucumber and orange and watermelon and lemon flavored, right? Fruit flavored waters to hydrate. Notice the theater back there too, the iLounge Theater. So this booth had everything going on. Seating with charging stations. Everybody's running around with their smartphones today, and having a visible, comfortable charge-up place in your booth can be another good strategy. Unique seating. Check out this. This guy's doing a one-to-many presentation here, 3 people setting. He's standing up doing the presentation. That's unique seating, very comfortable sitting in the booth. So what are you doing to improve attendee comfort? Okay, so the 6 key factors that are going to really influence whether people remember and can recall your experience in the booth, according to Exhibit Surveys research, is number 1, they have interest in your product. Number 2, your company name is known and familiar to them. Number 3, that physical product demonstration, you did something live interactive, big impact on recall. Live presentations in the booth where you've got an expert in the booth doing a one-to-one or one-to-many. The quality of your booth staff, do you have enough and are they doing the right things? And then the overall exhibit design, the look and the feel and that design and the color. These are the things that impact recall and memorability. Here's some staffing mistakes that you want to make sure that you have no part of any of these, because they'll pass right by your booth and they might not come back. There's one at the top. This guy's actually sleeping in the booth. I was on the floor doing an evaluation. I heard somebody snore, and I looked over, and there he's not only sleeping in the booth, but every mistake you could possibly make in a booth is happening in that one picture. That's a total what not to do. Bottom left, see a young lady and young man. Well, he's working on a computer. She's texting on her cell phone. They're both sitting down. Somehow they've confused their brand space as their office space. Your trade show booth is your brand space. It's not your office, okay? And it's all about creating an experience for the attendees that's worthy of their time. And over on the right here, we got a 10 by 10 booth here with nothing in the booth except 5 bright green shirts. Now, who's going to stop at that booth? What are you going to do in that booth? You're going to get pounced on by 5 minion salespeople, you know. So these are staffing mistakes, things to avoid. So we've covered a lot of ground in a very short period here. What I'm going to do is open it up for questions. And while I do, I'll toss it back to Amy and Susie for any additional thoughts or comments from Ohio Dental Association.
So again, thank you all for taking the time to participate. Please do not let this be the last interaction you have with us. Much like we're learning, Amy and I, as we go through all of this process, we also want to make sure that you, our exhibitor, understand how important you are to our show and understand that we're truly wanting to be helpful to you and want this experience to be great for you as well. And that's the only reason that we're doing this. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us individually if there's anything that we can do to make your experience better. Continue to help us grow too. And with that, we've got a long summer ahead of us. We've got, well, it'll probably be a short summer. The last month has been quick. Our program is out. Registration is open. All the information is online live if you'd like to take a look at it. We have some really innovative programming for our attendees, but through the Exhibitor Resource Center, you'll find that we've also got innovative program for you. For instance, if you really want to get ready before each day, join us on Friday and Saturday morning for a free yoga class, and you'll be able to participate with a lot of our attendees as well. So we're looking forward to a great experience. Contact us if you need anything. And as Jefferson, as always, thank you, sir.
You bet. Thanks, Susie. Amy also. And then I've got a few questions, and then we'll wind down here. First question is, do I have suggestions for handouts and how to get contact information from the visitor? Yeah, on both. I think when it comes to literature and information in the booth, I think it's important to have it, but I don't like the idea of having it just sprawled out on a table where anybody can grab and go. If I am going to go that route, I'm going to at least put it in some form of a standing, whether it's a freestanding or a tabletop, and I'm going to pull it back from the aisle. I don't want hit and run behavior. I don't want people just grabbing and going. My competition will fill up their knowledge base. The other thing is different ways to deliver information, both print and with those thumb drives, USB drives are a great giveaway to have your branding on it and have your content on it. And I think it's important to ask the visitor, what information would you like to receive? When would you like to receive it? And who besides yourself might also need to see it? And that way I can kind of meet it the way they want it. Today, with many of the lead retrieval apps and a lot of the universal lead capture systems, you've got the ability now when you scan the badge to send an email thank you and attach the PDFs of information they want. I think that's really powerful if you can go to that place. As far as getting contact information from the visitor, they're wearing a badge. Susie, do we use a lead retrieval system at the show?
We do. We have it through our registration company, QMS.
Okay.
It's very affordable, and there's a couple of different versions. The most popular is that you can click right with your iPhone and that it's smartphone compatible. Makes it real simple.
Yeah, so my suggestion is on that, I know it costs a little extra to have the lead retrieval system. I think it's a must-have. Here's why. Let's say I'm a dentist. I walk into your booth. I've had no interaction with your company before today. I hand you my badge to scan, and you can't scan it. I want you to pause for a moment and think, put yourself in the mind of the dentist, right? This is my first interaction with this company. Seems like everybody else can scan. I wonder why these guys can't scan, right? So I think it's important to have it. It also gives you that quick and easy way to capture the visitor data electronically. You can often build custom surveys or qualifiers into your app. And so it's a really smart investment in terms of capturing visitors' information, because otherwise you're hoping that they brought a business card to the show. And by the time they get to your booth, they might have given them all away. So I strongly suggest that you have the electronic system and customize it as much as possible. Let's see, someone was asking the LCD projectors, what type of surface. He was rear projecting it onto a thin white fabric. So it was rear projected on a thin white fabric, and he had 6, they were about 2 foot by 2 foot panels along the top of the booth, and he had the product demos going on that. Let's see, someone's asking, what if our sales rep is so busy they don't have time for lead retrieval? Would you say purchasing an attendee list is more? To me, it's not an either or an and if your booth staffer is too busy, odds are you don't have enough booth staff. So I would look at augmenting and having more booth staff. Even if I had to rent a temporary booth staffer to play a meet, greet, qualify, and handoff role. So purchasing the pre-show attendee list is a no-brainer. You absolutely should be getting that. If the post-show list is available, you should be looking into that. So both lists would be good to get. And again, if your rep is so busy they don't have time to scan a badge, you've got to take a real hard look at how many people you have and probably bring more people to the show in proportion to the size of your booth. 10 by 10 booth, 2, maybe 3 people. If you put more than 3, yeah.
If I could jump in, just
Please.
so that no confusion with our show, we do not have the ability to purchase a post-show attendee list. We do give a show attendee list at no cost for marketing purposes. That's part of your enhancement of being with us. I believe it's $250 is the cost of the lead retrieval system. And again, a lot of our attendees, we even use that internally for our ODA programming and events because it is so easy. The barcode is right on the front of the badges, both for dentists and all attendees, for convenience.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Susie. You actually answered a question that was coming up next, was how much is lead retrieval? And Susie said, I think it was $250 in most shows that sorry?
I was going to say there's a variety of pricing depending on the system that you want, but I believe, and the timing of when you order it.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, we're going to be sending that out. Amy will send that out to everybody this afternoon with the specific information, but it's right in the $250 ballpark. And you just need one. You just need one system. Everybody's phone will work.
And $250 is less. Most shows that I go to when I look at their lead retrieval, it's usually close to $400. So $250 is a industry-wide is a really good deal on lead retrieval. Last question I'm seeing is what's my opinion regarding raffles and giveaways? If you have a spin the wheel to get something, you're going to attract people that want to win something. If you have a drop your business card in a fishbowl to win a GoPro, you're going to attract somebody who wants to win a GoPro. I think contests and giveaways can play a role, but I think it's better used in a targeted pre-show marketing campaign than non-selectively just pulling anybody out of the aisles. And then if you are going to have a raffle or contest in the booth, drop your card to win this or that. At minimum, I would put a qualifier card with it that had 5 questions. I'd go, staple your card to this, answer these 5. Oh, by the way, all 5 questions must be answered to qualify for the contest. That way, at least you get some qualification data with it. Okay, and then the final thing is, aren't raffles some of an issue because of the Sunshine Act? They definitely can be, and you have to look legally at any form of, in the medical industry today, any form of giveaway, and make sure that you're in compliance with either the AdvaMed or the Pharma Code or the Sunshine Act. I think you have to make sure you're in compliance with all 3 of those if they apply to you. All right, well,
yes,
Susie.
Just as a reminder, the ODA does do a type of raffle for our attendees in the exhibit hall each 3 days. And we divide it up. There's one for dentists, one for hygienists, and one for all of the other staff. And they get a ticket each day with their badges, and they actually have to bring that into the ODA membership booth, which is positioned in the back of the exhibit hall. So we do this. The gifts, the prizes each day are valued at more than $500 for the dentists. They're great prizes, and we really do have a lot of folks that come in and physically drop that ticket, which means they have to walk to the hall. So we do that and promote that as on behalf of all of the exhibitors to kind of help you through that Sunshine Act, but knowing that I hate to admit it, but even my committee members will agree that for six-figure income folks, they really like the freebies. They enjoy the giveaways, and they'll walk a lot further for a $25 Target gift card. I don't understand it, but I will tell you that it's true. But we do that with a general giveaway.
All right. Well, thanks for adding on that. So I want to thank everybody again for taking time out of your schedule, logging in. It tells me you're still learning, you're still growing, and we'll be uploading this at some point next week to the ODA website. And be sure in the interim, if you haven't done so, to review the webinars that are up there, download the content, use it. You got questions, additional questions, ask them through your email Q&A. And so on behalf of everyone at Ohio Dental, my company here, Competitive Edge, thanks for logging in. We really appreciate you being part of the show, and use what you learned, and you will have a standout exhibit. And that's our hope for you. So thanks for logging in, everybody.
Thank you.